Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain a Canadian body horror film from 2015, titled Bite. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie opens with three friends, Casey, Kirsten, and Jill, traveling to Costa Rica to celebrate Casey's bachelorette party. They check into a hotel and spend their time enjoying various activities, including swimming, with Jill recording their fun on camera. Casey is engaged to her fiancé, Jared, but she is having doubts about the upcoming wedding. She is also frustrated with Jared's mother, who is her landlord and appears to dislike her. One night at a club, Casey becomes intoxicated and begins dancing wildly with a man, prompting her friends to pull her away. Feeling emotional and uncertain about her relationship, Casey confesses that she is not sure Jared is the right person for her. Kirsten reassures her, and they return to the party to continue the celebration. The following day, they encounter the man Casey danced with, who tells them about a river called the Buddha Strand Sea of Stars. Initially reluctant to reveal its location because they are tourists, he eventually gives them a map after Jill seduces him. The friends follow the map and arrive at the river. Casey and Jill jump into the water while Kirsten films them and notices a strange substance. While swimming, Casey is bitten by an insect beneath the water, and moments later, Jill says she feels something as well and is suddenly dragged underwater. Casey rushes out of the water in panic and calls for Jill, who soon reappears on the other side, apparently playing a prank. Preoccupied to take notice of the bite, Casey brushing it off as an ordinary bug bite. After the trip, Casey returns home, where she is surprised by Jared. He asks about her vacation, and she tells him it was fun. Jared then takes her to their room to show her a surprise, an infant chair he planned to use for their future baby after they are married. Shortly afterward, he leaves for work following a phone call. It is revealed that Casey lost her engagement ring during the vacation and is still feeling guilty about what happened in Costa Rica. Later, while showering, multiple bite marks are visible on Casey's body, and the area where she was bitten by the insect is now slightly swollen and painful. After her shower, she calls Kirsten and confesses that she is still feeling guilty and anxious about her upcoming wedding, and Kirsten reassures her that everything will be fine. Casey then goes to the laundry room to wash her clothes but discovers that she has run out of detergent. She visits her landlord, Mrs. Kennedy, Jared's mother, to ask for some, and Mrs. Kennedy notices the bite marks on Casey's shoulder. She quickly shifts the conversation to the wedding, expressing disappointment in Casey's plans and making it clear that she does not approve of the marriage. It is revealed that Casey and Jared live in separate apartments within the same building to satisfy Mrs. Kennedy's disapproval. Back in her apartment, Casey watches videos from their Costa Rica vacation and feels ashamed of her behavior while she was drunk. Later, she visits her neighbor, Mr. Matheson, to take his dog, Cyrano, on their usual walk, who is happy to see her, and they head to the park. That night, Casey receives a call from her mother regarding the wedding. In tears, Casey tells her that she wants to postpone it because she does not feel ready, though she has not told Jared. While waiting for him later, she overhears Jared and his mother talking. Mrs. Kennedy strongly opposes the marriage and insists that Casey is not good enough for her son. However, Jared defends Casey, saying he intends to marry her and that his mother must accept it. Later, Jared comes to Casey's apartment, and they have dinner together, and Casey appears troubled. When Jared asks if she is alright, she attempts to tell him about postponing the wedding, but the sound of him eating disturbs her, and she instead insists that she is fine. When he notices she is not wearing her engagement ring, Casey makes an excuse, claiming she left it in the laundry room while cleaning it. Suddenly, she feels nauseous and rushes to the bathroom to vomit, and to her shock, her saliva is unusually sticky. After cleaning herself up, she returns to the dining area, and Jared takes her to the bedroom so she can rest. Casey asks Jared to stay the night, but he tells her that his mother would not approve. He reassures her that after their wedding the following week, they will move out of the building and begin their life together. Moments later, with a sudden argue, Casey begins kissing him, and they become intimate. During the encounter, a festering pustule that has developed on Casey's thigh from the insect bite suddenly bursts when Jared touches it, abruptly ending the moment. Disturbed and frustrated, Jared leaves after Casey rushes to the bathroom to examine the wound. Upset and exhausted, Casey eventually falls asleep in the bathtub, and the next morning, she is awakened by her ringing phone. She notices a strange substance on her face, which she quickly wipes away, and a knock at the door follows, and she discovers it is Jill. Jill asks whether Casey told Jared about postponing the wedding, but in tears, Casey admits that she did not, and Jill comforts her. Because of the increasing pain, Casey shows Jill the infected bite on her thigh. Jill gives her a cream she received from a dermatologist for her own bug bites, assuring her it should help, before leaving for work. Later, Casey watches another video from their vacation in Costa Rica. In the footage, she wakes up naked on the beach with no memory of how she got there, her engagement ring missing. It becomes clear that she cannot recall what happened that night because she was heavily intoxicated. Casey attempts to eat bread but immediately vomits, as her senses have become abnormally heightened and she can no longer tolerate the taste of food. The following day, she goes to Mr. Matheson's apartment to take Cyrano out for his regular walk. The elderly man notices how pale she has become, and when Casey calls the dog, it refuses to go with her. Both she and Mr. Matheson find unusual, and he suggests that she try again the next day. Later, Casey meets Kristen at a restaurant and tells her that she plans to inform Jared that she wants to postpone their wedding. Kristen observes how pale Casey looks and asks if she is feeling well. Casey admits that she is not and explains that ever since the bug bite, she has not felt like herself. She mentions that she vomits whenever she eats, and Kristen suggests that she might be pregnant, but Casey insists that it is impossible. Back at her apartment, Casey decides to take a home pregnancy test. While looking at herself in the mirror, she notices that the festering pustule has reappeared. She squeezes it, releasing a liquid substance. When she checks the test result, she discovers that she is pregnant, presumably by the man she met in Costa Rica. As the bite worsens, Casey calls a clinic to describe her condition and follows the advice she receives over the phone to purchase over-the-counter medication. After applying the medication to the bite, she begins to feel nauseous and vomits again, noticing something unusual. She leaves a voicemail for another clinic, expressing her concerns and her urgent need to see a doctor, then goes to bed. That night, she awakens to strange noises in her apartment and follows the sound, only to find her friends and Jared throwing her a surprise birthday party. Suddenly, hundreds of eggs begin emerging from her body as everyone shouts babies and crushes the eggs. The scene abruptly reveals itself to be a nightmare, and Casey wakes up in her bathtub, where she notices that the color of the water has changed. After returning to her bedroom, Casey notices a trail of water leading to her bed and slowly approaches it. When she pulls back the blanket, she is horrified to discover the same hundreds of eggs scattered across her bed and throughout the apartment. Looking into the mirror, she sees her face gradually beginning to change, and at that moment, there is a knock at the door. It is Mrs. Kennedy, who has come to complain about a foul smell coming from Casey's apartment. As Casey begins to change her clothes, she discovers a tail growing from her waist, which sends her into a panic. When Casey refuses to answer the door, Mrs. Kennedy lets herself in with a spare key and is immediately struck by the odor. She notices Casey's pregnancy test and then sees Casey behaving strangely. Casey repeatedly tells her to leave, but Mrs. Kennedy refuses. She accuses Casey of cheating on Jared, insists that the child she is carrying is not her son's, and demands to know who the father is. As Mrs. Kennedy continues berating her and declares that she is not good enough to marry her son, Casey suddenly coughs up an acidic substance that burns Mrs. Kennedy's face and kills her. Shocked and terrified by what she has done, Casey panics. She then notices large insects emerging from some of the eggs that have grown bigger. Afterwards, she drags Mrs. Kennedy's body into the bedroom and places it in the bathtub. While looking at herself in the mirror, Casey sees the extent of her transformation and lets out a scream so piercing that it shatters the glass. After not hearing from Casey for some time, Jared calls her phone, but it goes to voicemail. Concerned, he goes to her apartment and attempts to open the door, but Casey stops him. It becomes clear that her mutation has worsened and that her apartment has transformed into an organic hive. Casey finally tells Jared that she is not ready for their wedding, and when he asks her to open the door so they can talk, she screams at him to leave. Later, Jared tries to drown his frustration in alcohol, upset that his relationship with Casey is falling apart. After several days without seeing or hearing from Casey, Kristen goes to speak with Jill about her absence. Jill says she has also tried contacting Casey, but Casey has not responded, and suggests that Casey may be struggling with guilt over cheating on Jared. When Jill makes an offensive remark about Casey, Kristen becomes angry and insults her in return. Annoyed, Jill slams the door, and it is revealed that Jill is secretly in love with Jared and deeply resents Casey for being engaged to him. She was also the one who stole Casey's ring while they were in Costa Rica. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Casey's transformation continues, along with the grotesque alteration of her surroundings. She peels off one of her fingernails and eats it, then consumes a live cockroach, and because her senses have become heightened, she hears Kristen approaching the apartment from a distance. Finding the door locked, Kristen forces it open with a card, and she is immediately horrified by the condition of the apartment and the foul odor inside. Eventually, she encounters Casey, and upon seeing her deteriorated state, pleads with her to go to the hospital. Casey refuses, insisting that she cannot abandon her eggs, and terrified by Casey's mutated face, Kristen flees into the bathroom and locks the door as Casey tries to force her way in. Kristen attempts to call 911, but she drops her phone into the water when she discovers Mrs. Kennedy's corpse in the bathtub. Casey manages to break into the bathroom, covers Kristen's mouth to silence her, and secretes a blue substance from her palm into Kristen's face, causing her loses consciousness and dies. At his apartment, Jared checks himself in the mirror before going to the bathroom, and to his shock, he begins urinating blood. Later, he receives a text message from Jill, who says she is waiting for him in the parking lot. Meanwhile, in her apartment, Casey has fully transformed into a grotesque creature. While sitting in her car, Jill shows Jared a video recording of Casey with another man in Costa Rica and tells him they had sex. Heartbroken, Jared listens as Jill insists that Casey is not good enough for him and that he deserves someone like her instead. Jill kisses and seduces him, and they become intimate in her car, parked outside Jared and Casey's apartment building. With her heightened senses, Casey hears them and becomes distressed by the sounds, screaming in agitation. Suddenly, both Jared and Jill spit up a strange substance. Jared quickly exits the car, while Jill drives away. Overwhelmed by betrayal, the monstrous Casey takes a photograph of herself and Jared and slowly licks it. Consumed by guilt for betraying her friend, Jill later goes to Casey's apartment. After knocking and receiving no response, she lets herself in and is horrified by the apartment's grotesque condition. As she searches for Casey and calls out her name, she discovers Kristen's body suspended from a wall, covered in a thick organic substance. Without warning, Casey attacks Jill using her newly developed poisonous stinger tail, rendering her unconscious. When Jill regains consciousness, she finds herself bound to a chair, restrained by the same organic material, while the monstrous Casey watches her from a corner. Jill pleads for mercy, urging Casey to seek medical help and insisting that her condition is not beyond treatment. However, Casey presents Jill with video footage proving that she deliberately allowed the man in Costa Rica to take advantage of Casey while she was intoxicated. After confronting Jill about her betrayal, Casey kisses her, forcing pus into her mouth, and compels her to scream for Jared. Hearing Jill's screams from his apartment, Jared rushes to Casey's apartment and forces his way inside. He finds Jill restrained, with no sign of Casey, and as he attempts to free her, the monstrous Casey appears behind him. Jared is horrified by her appearance, and while Jill continues screaming, Casey suddenly slits her throat in front of Jared and then attacks him, leading to a violent struggle. Jared manages to wrestle Casey to the ground, but she causes him to lose his balance and stings him with her tail. Injured, Jared slowly crawls away, and before Casey can kill him, he grabs a wooden furniture leg and drives it into her body. He then repeatedly stomps on her head until he crushes it, finally ending her life. Wounded and spitting up pus, Jared stumbles back to his apartment. He attempts to make an emergency call but fails and eventually collapses. A week later, the entire building is placed under quarantine as police and a hazmat team process the scene, while onlookers gather outside, curious about what has occurred. Officers enter Casey's apartment and discover the bodies of Mrs. Kennedy, Jill, and Kristen. They also find Jared in his own apartment, which has transformed into an insect-infested lair similar to Casey's. He is severely injured and has mutated into a human-like cocoon. Suddenly, numerous eggs surrounding Jared's body hatch, and strange insects swarm and attack the police officers. The film concludes with two joggers discussing an upcoming trip to Costa Rica to spend time together. During their conversation, one of them is bitten by one of the newly hatched insects but dismisses it as nothing more than a minor bite.
Just a little bite.
Okay guys, that's all the recap about Bite from 2015. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.